from Silicon Valley. I gave away all my suits, so I literally don't have any suits. I'm sorry. Well, my jeans are not that big, but yeah, I just thought of something. So we're using my computer, okay? And this computer is connected to the Cabrillo Wi-Fi. So notifications may come in. I see something that says, oh, Santa Cruz County Manager overdrawn. Welcome to the world of small business. So listen, my name is Guy Kawasaki. I am the Chief Evangelist of Canva, and I'm also the host of a Remarkable People podcast. About 6 or 7 years ago, we made a total commitment to Santa Cruz. So we moved over here from over the hill, and we have a house on 38th Avenue, about a block from Jack's. And we also have a house in Watsonville, because we kind of wanted something that's, let's just say, more peaceful than Pleasure Point. Let's just leave it at that. And I have just loved living here. I fell in love with surfing a few years ago, and literally I surf almost every day now. And right after this, I'm going to go surfing. I don't care. When I get really old, I'm going to take up paddleboarding, but right now, it's still surfing. So I'm going to give you a talk. This is called How to Be a Remarkable Small Business. And it's based on my knowledge from my podcast. I have a podcast called Remarkable People, and it's about 5 years old now. And we've had some local people from Monterey Bay Aquarium and Chris Burdish. He's not local, but he's a well-known surfer. I've had just tremendous people. I'll show you some pictures. So the upper left-hand corner, that's Jane Goodall. She was my first guest on my podcast. That's an amazing story how I got her. The second picture is Randy Chastain. She's a women's soccer player. When they won the World Cup, she took off her jersey, she was twirling it around her head. Very iconic shot. Next to her is Mark Rober. Mark Rober, in case you don't know who he is, he has this great YouTube channel where he does stuff like he lets people steal shipping boxes, and when you steal the shipping box, it explodes, and all this stuff flies out, and fart gas flies out. It's very, very funny. He also did Squirrel Olympics. You have to be here. Squirrel Olympics is not to be this. On the bottom left corner, that's Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, and he's playing Segway polo there. That's basically what rich white men from Silicon Valley. Next to Steve Wozniak is Neil deGrasse Tyson, an astrophysicist. Under him is Margaret Atwood. Margaret Atwood. It's too bad she's being so right now. I mean, she could think a dystopian world, and man, we're on the edge of that dystopian world. My God. A very funny story about Margaret Atwood on my podcast. Believe it or not, Margaret Atwood, of all people in the world, she's the first person to drop an F-bomb on my podcast. I thought it was going to be Gary Vee, but no, it was Margaret Atwood. I can tell you that story if you want, but it's going to require me dropping 2 F-bombs in this auditorium. So how many of you guys are telling you the story? Okay, how many of you know? Maybe that's just an example. Okay, so I'm interviewing Margaret Atwood, and I say to Margaret, tell me about your writing style. I mean, do you use Microsoft Word, God forbid, and then you turn it into a manuscript and everybody loves it and there's no corrections? Oh, no, Guy, absolutely not. I write longhand, and then I turn it into an editor, and we go back and forth, and then they digitize it. I said, well, how do you test it? Do you send it to lots of readers? And she says, well, what I really do is when I have a character in my book, I find someone I know in so I had this young professional in my book, and I had him say in the book, "What in fuck?" And then I sent it to this friend who was a young professional, and the young professional said to me, "Margaret, people don't say what in fuck, they say what the fuck." So I had to change my book. And I was thinking, I said, Margaret Atwood is dropping the F-bomb 3 times in my podcast. How special is that? The only thing that could have been better is Jane Goodall dropped it. That would have been priceless. Next to Margaret is Stacey Abrams from the state of Georgia, twice-filled candidate for the governorship of Georgia. Someday I hope she's president of the United States. And that would be a very good. I made her promise to give me a ride in Air Force Ones. And then next to Stacey Abrams, if you're into social psychology and influence and persuasion, that's Bob Cialdini. Bob Cialdini is the godfather of influence and persuasion. He wrote a book called Influence, and for those, trust me, if there's a book to read about influence in sales and marketing, it's Bob Cialdini's book. And when an author tells you to read somebody else's book, there's no higher form of praise. So look at the book Influence by Bob Cialdini. So anyway, after 5 years, I now have about 250 hours of interviews. I also have about 5,000 pages of transcripts. We transcribe every one of our podcasts because, really, I'm going to have to violate some HIPAA regulations right now. But basically, I am deaf. And because I'm deaf, I truly understand the frustrations of not being able to hear a podcast. So that's why we made a commitment to transcribe all our podcasts. And we spent a lot of time transcribing our podcasts. I hope there are deaf people reading it because if they knew what it took, it's a lot of effort. Even in the age of AI, it's not like you upload an audio file and about made by the man 30 seconds later, ChatGPT is the perfect transcription. It just doesn't work like that. So, so the problem is that we have this 250 hours, 5,000 pages, and there's no way that most people are going to listen to something that long or read that many pages. So what we did is we took down all that, and we made a book that's about 8 hours to read and about 170 pages long, and it contains 88 tactics. So I took a subset of these tactics and I crafted it into this speech just to this audience because I want you to be remarkable small business successes, all right? And so I always use a top 10 format for my speeches, and this is because being in tech for so long, I've been in tech for 40 years, being in tech for so long, I've sat through many painful high-tech CEOs giving keynote speeches. And the two things that I notice about them is first, they all suck. And second, they go wrong. And that's a deadly combination. If you suck and you're short, if you're great and you're wrong, it's also okay. But if you suck and go wrong, that's like being stupid and arrogant. And so I use a top 10 format, so just in case you think I suck, you know about how much longer I'll suck because I have 10 points in my speech. I'm giving you this as a marker for my speech, all right? So here are my 10 tips. Oh, before I forget, I'm an investor in a Santa Cruz small business. I'm also on the board of directors. The company's name is Merge 4. So you all have Merge 4 shops. Yeah. I love Merge 4. I have more mismatched Merge 4 stocks than anyone in the world. And I converted my Merge 4 stock philosophy. So now, instead of allowing cool different designs, I just buy one design. And that way, it's so much easier to keep it managed. They all look like this. It's a lot smarter. Hey, the mark of a good speaker is you never get sidetracked telling about So with Apple, when I worked in the Macintosh division, the pain was that computers were too hard to use. Today, as an evangelist for Canva, the pain is that Photoshop is too expensive, too hard to use, too hard to deploy. And so you look for pain. You know, when Mark Benioff created Salesforce, the pain that he was trying to solve was it's too hard to upgrade enterprise software. You have to send out teams of people and they have to carry DVDs and SSDs and HDs. And it's so hard to upgrade software. So why don't we alleviate the pain? Why don't we make it cloud-based? And I think the alleviation of pain is a very, very profitable way to go. I mean, in Silicon Valley, there is this dichotomy between painkillers and vitamins. So yes, vitamins and supplements, they can make you feel better, they can make you skinnier and younger and healthier and all that kind of good psychological stuff. But pain is what people really want to get rid of. So, in more violation of HIPAA, I have migraine headaches suffer. How many of you have migraine headaches in this audience? Okay, so you understand that when you have a migraine headache, it literally feels like someone is pounding a nail in your head, right? And your vision gets all distorted. You have blind spots. And it's not like just half your vision is gone. It's like pieces of your vision. Like if you looked at a license plate on a car, you would not be able to see all 7 things. And you feel nauseous, and you feel dizzy, and there's this nail pounding in your head. I'm telling you, when you have a migraine headache, you're looking for a painkiller. You're not looking for a turmeric. You're not looking for vitamin D. You're not looking for a supplement that's going to make you feel better. You want painkiller. So I'm telling you, one of the richest things for entrepreneurs is look for pain. Look for pain and solve that pain. Number two is something that many people who've read my book, and by the way, you're all getting a copy of the book. I forgot to mention that. It's in your bag. Many people who have read this disagree with me. They think that envy is a completely negative thing. It leads to destructive behavior and jealousy and all that kind of stuff. And I have a different take on envy. I think envy can be a very positive force for motivation. And I'll tell you some stories. So when I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii, a poor part of Honolulu. I'm not from a wealthy family. And there were times I went to a high school that was on the other side of town. It would be kind of like if you lived on East Cliff, but you went to school by Costco. You know what I mean? That kind of distance. And I used to catch the public bus. And twice in my life, I was robbed on that bus. So that was 2 formative experiences in my youth. And also, once in my life, when I was in high school, some family friend gave me a ride in a Porsche 911. And I'll tell you something, those 3 things really, really formed my life. Because I had envy. I told myself, God, you are not going to live in some place where you get robbed on the bus. And you are not going to drive broken down cars. You want a German car. You want a 911. So listen, I know that this is I'm letting you transparently see my insipidness and my shallowness and my materialness and all that bad stuff. But I'm telling you that when you ask many people, you ask them, well, what motivated you? They say, oh, I wanted to end crime. I wanted to ensure fresh water for everybody. I wanted to make equal economic opportunity for everybody. I wanted to control climate change. If you ask me, I'm telling you, I didn't want to change the world. I just wanted to change the car. And so this envy for a safer place to live and a better car to drive, I promise, I swear to God, that's what motivated me to study and work hard. And my rationalization is that, listen, it doesn't matter what motivates you. It only matters that you are motivated. And if it happens that cars motivated me or fear of getting robbed, so be it. sometimes I'm surfing at Jack's, and I see Darshan Gooch, or I see Wingnut, or when I see Neil, I don't care, I don't envy Neil, but when I see Wingnut and Thomas Hall, and I see them cross-stepping to the nose and just hanging 10 like that, it's like, I can tell you, the only word to describe what I feel is envy. It's envy. I wish I could do that. And their ability to cross-step and hang 10 like that is driving me to keep surfing and keep trying. So thank you, Darshan Gooch and the Wingnut, and to some extent, Neil. Envy is okay, so embrace your envy. So as a small businessman, if you go out and you see a more successful store, a more successful restaurant or something, I think it's okay to envy that. Envy their success and then try to achieve the same thing. What is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. So don't hide your envy. Don't be embarrassed by your envy. Use your envy to drive you to success. Number three. A lot of people recommend that you fake it until you make it. I think that's bullshit advice. Faking it until you make it, the only context which I think you should apply that is that when you are in a situation and you're not sure you're qualified, and you have imposter syndrome, and you think that the other people in this audience, the other people on this board of directors, the other people in this group, they deserve to be here, but I don't. I'm a fake. They're going to figure out that I'm not what I am perceived to be. And in that situation, I'm telling you, fake it until you make it is okay. Because I'm telling you that everybody's probably thinking that. In fact, if you don't have a little imposter syndrome in your brain, you're probably delusional. I can name a lot of people who they don't have imposter syndrome. They think they have entitlement syndrome. And I tell you something, if you had a choice between having entitlement syndrome or imposter syndrome, pick imposter syndrome. That's for sure. So now, what do I mean by face it until you make it? So, one of the people that I interviewed for the podcast was Garrett McNamara. Garrett McNamara is a big wave surfer. He's Mr. Nazareth. The HBO series 100-Foot Wave is based on Garrett McNamara. And we got to talking. I said, Garrett, so when you were a kid, were you out there like at Pipeline on 20-foot waves, no problems? I said, no, guy, not at all. I was afraid of any wave over 10 feet. I would not go out in a wave over 10 feet. I said, well, Garrett, clearly you're out in waves 90 feet bigger than now. Well, what happened? How did you get to that point? And he said, you know what? People force me to face those waves. My friends, they forced me to go out in those waves. So they forced me to face it. So I went out in 10-foot waves and 20-foot waves and Pipeline and Mavericks and Nazareth. And now I can go out in anything. Now, I'm not suggesting to you that you go out and go to Mavericks and it's a place to learn, I think the way it works is you start at calls and you end at calls, right? Let's face it. But let's take something that maybe more of you can relate to. Like a lot of people fear public speaking. And so this is a fear, and I think for someone who speaks a lot, public speaking fear, you have to face it till you make it. Which means that if you have a fear of public speaking, start speaking up in the staff meetings. Start speaking up in these kind of venues. Start speaking up publicly. So just face that fear. And next thing you speak at the PTA. Next thing you speak, at Cabrillo College. And next thing you speak at UCSC. And someday you'll be speaking on TEDx. TEDx Santa Cruz. So you just have to keep speaking and speaking and speaking. And someday, I'm telling you, it is no big deal. I speak to audiences that vary from 50 to, I've spoken to audiences of like 40,000 people. And I can't tell you that I wasn't nervous, but you can get used to it. You really do. And speaking to 40,000 people is kind of like surfing a 100-foot wave, except you're not going to die, right? Fear is about the same. And I'm telling you, you just keep facing it until you make it. you have to make yourself two things, unique and valuable. So imagine a 2x2 matrix, okay? On one axis is the degree of uniqueness. How different are you from everybody else? On the horizontal axis is the value of what you bring, right? So, if you are unique, but what you do is not valuable, you're just plain stupid. You go to a market that doesn't exist. Now, if you are not valuable and not unique, that's even worse. So you exist in a market that doesn't exist, and other people are competing with you for that same market that doesn't exist. Now, I'm telling you that all of life boils down to, can you be unique and valuable, right? You know, are you the 5th Mexican restaurant on 41st Avenue? What makes you unique and valuable? I mean, tell me you, what's the name of the bakery? El Rosa's? Midtown, right? El Rosa's. In my mind, they have the best tamales. Japanese American, but you know, what do I know? Arguably, I eat more tamales than sushi. But anyway, so you know, like, you know, what are you known for? What makes you unique in life? What makes you the best surf store? What makes you the best bookstore? What makes you the best restaurant? You know, what makes you unique and valuable? And for that matter, think of it as a person. What makes you unique and valuable as a person? Because if you're unique and valuable to your spouse, man, you got it made. But if you're not unique and not valuable, you're on the way out sometimes. And as an employee, unique and valuable people who can do skills, who can do things that nobody else can do, and what they do is very valuable. Guess what? You get paid more, you get appreciated more, you get more responsibility. It's all about being unique and valuable. Number 5 is that when you want to see what customers need, first of all, at least go and see how your customers are using your products. Go watch them. You know, Toyota had this theory that, listen, if a factory is going bad, you don't just read the reports, you don't just look at the computer analysis, you go to the factory floor and you see what's happening on the factory floor. I would tell you, even better than going and seeing is going and being. Which is to say, you work on the factory floor, right? So, to continue with the car analogy, it would be one thing to go and see how a couple with 2 kids, 2 baby strollers, 2 baby bags, you know, how do they deal with that? How do they deal with all that seats and bags and strollers? That's great. You would understand, you know, pretty good insight about what makes a good minivan, why people need a minivan. But imagine if you were the person, and you and your spouse, you have 2 kids, and you are schlepping 2 bags, 2 baby strollers, right? 2 baby seats. That would truly help you figure out what's best for your customer. So I'm asking you to be, you know, to truly understand your customer. At least go and see how they're using your products and services. But certainly try to go and be your customer. And this means, you know, if it's a tech business, you know, let's say you're a tech business, and because of your security concerns, you've implemented a system of captcha, right? We all encounter captcha every day, right? So now, like, find every picture with a motorcycle in it. Find every picture with a school in it, with a bus in it. I have literally never, ever successfully, in the first time, done one of those things. I mean, there's pictures of motorcycles must be in the reflection of the rearview mirror of the bus. I don't know where that motorcycle is, and I spend so much time. So, like, you know, that's the kind of thing. Go and see and go and be your customer. If you're making people use a website, try using your website yourself. Are you forcing them for captcha? Are you forcing them to do things that you just hate doing? So go and see and go and be. And I'll give you one more really tangible example. This friend of mine named Martin Lindstrom, he was retained by by a pharmaceutical company, and they said that they wanted to get closer to the customer. When you hear those words, it usually translates to $5 million contract to McKinsey, okay? And then they do research and focus groups and surveys and all this bullshit. So what Martin Bishop did for the pharmaceutical executives, he took them in a room and he gave them all straws. And he said, you read through the straws now. You read through the straws for a few minutes. And let's just say it was difficult for many of the people. And let's just say that many of the people hated reading through straws. So at the end of the exercise, he said, listen, you want to get closer to your customer? I just made you into a customer for a while. You sell drugs for people with asthma. That's what it's like to have asthma. So rather than reading reports of the difficulty of living with asthma and how frustrating it is to breathe and uncomfortable and scary, he made them breathe through straws. So I'm asking you as entrepreneurs, what's the equivalent? What's the equivalent of you forcing yourself to breathe through straws? To go through the capture experience, to go through the registration experience, right? All these kinds of things. Go and see, go and be. Number six. Number six is that you should work backwards from your customer. And many organizations and people, they want to work forward. This is what we love to do. This is what we have been doing. This is what we want to continue to do. This is what we make money doing. And so now we just need to find people who will buy into what we like to do. I don't think that's optimal. I think what you need to do is you work backwards from the customer. Let me give you a negative example. So believe it or not, in 1975, Kodak invented digital photography. How many people in this room use a Kodak digital camera today, right? 2 of you? Oh, I was going to say, wow. That's 2 more than any place else I've ever So, Kodak invented digital photography in 1975, but they never pursued it. Now, to be fair to them, maybe the first digital camera was probably 25 pounds, 100 pixels, it cost 10 grand to make. Okay, I understand that. But obviously, other companies were able to take that idea and make it into these tiny cameras that we have today. So Kodak could have done it. But you know what? I think Kodak was working forward. Kodak was saying, we're a chemical company. We put chemicals on paper and film. And now we just need to find people to buy paper and film with chemicals because that's what we do, that's what we have done, that's what we're going to do, that's what we make money doing. Instead, Kodak should have worked backwards on the customer and figured out, why do people buy chemicals on film? Because they want to preserve memories. Duh! So we're in the preservation of memories business. We're not in the business of chemicals. And if they had worked backwards, figuring that people wanted to preserve memories, they would have embraced digital photography. Because digital photography is so vastly superior to chemicals on film and paper. I mean, when you take a picture with your phone right now, you know seconds later you got the memory or you don't. The disadvantage of chemicals on film when you take it to our friends at Bay Photo, which I love my Bay Photos, so if your Bay Photos in here, kudos to you. But a week later, best case, you've already left your vacation spot. You've left what you've done. You left nice marks, whatever. You don't have. It's in your head. You hope it's in your camera. That's not good enough today. So work backwards from your customer. Number 7. Number 7 is I ask you to put skills first. That what matters is not so much the education, not so much the work experience, but can the people you're hiring and the people you're employing, can they do what is necessary? Put the skills first. Not every job needs a college degree. Even IBM says that. Put the skills first. That's what's most important. Let me tell you, when I got my job at Apple, my job was to be the second software evangelist. So my job was to convince people to write software for Macintosh. At the time, Macintosh had no software. And honestly, my background was purely not technical. I have a degree in psychology. I dropped out out of law school after 2 weeks. I went and got a master's in business administration, and while I was doing that, I worked for a jewelry company. So I literally was counting diamonds. That was my background when I got hired at Apple. The only reason why I got hired at Apple was not because of my educational degree, which was psychology. It wasn't my work experience because I was schlepping diamonds. It was because of nepotism. Really, I have proved that nepotism can work. In direct contrast to the Trump family. So, and what enabled me to be successful is that I happen to have had the skills to evangelize Macintosh successfully. I'm living proof that it's the skill, it's not the educational qualification, it's not the work experience. It's can you do the job? That is the most important thing. Number eight is that I think small business entrepreneurs, they have to plant a lot of seeds because you just never know which seed is going to take off. And I gotta tell you, the hill behind our house in Watsonville was covered with eucalyptus trees. It's covered with eucalyptus trees. And listen, Cameron is from Sydney, Australia. My cochlear implant is from Sydney, Australia. I have an external display for this computer from Sydney, Australia. I have a really great dead coot surfboard from Australia. I love Australia. I love things Australian, except eucalyptus trees. For those of you not familiar, eucalyptus trees have a very weak root system. They fall over in our house all the time, right? They create a lot of trash, and they really burn well, and they use a lot of water. Now, I hope I didn't break any laws, but I had about 150 eucalyptus trees removed. So now I'm looking at this hill and I'm saying, geez, looks like World War III happened here. We're gonna return this to its natural state. And the obvious tree to plant is oaks. So now I gotta research how do you put oaks on some place that was covered with eucalyptus trees? And I figure out using the internet, because everything is true on the internet. It says basically the way to do this is you find acorns. You take the acorns, you put them in water. The acorns that float, you throw away. They're the dead ones. The acorns that sink are good. You put those acorns in a pan, you cover them with a cloth, you put moisture on the cloth, you put it in your refrigerator for a couple months to simulate winter. When winter ends, you put them in the ground, and then you hope that a seedling comes out. And I can tell you that seedlings do come out. You have to put hundreds of acorns to get a few seedlings, so that's how it works. And I also learned that not every oak tree puts out acorns. I went to many an oak tree all over Santa Cruz looking for acorns. So just in case you want to grow oak trees, I'll tell you, the best place for acorns is on University Avenue in Los Gatos, right by Warby Parker. There's a tree there. Oh my God, I don't know what's wrong. That tree is just dumping out acorns. So don't bother going around the UCSC campus and stuff. Just go straight to, go get a pair of glasses, go get a cappuccino at Blue Bottle, and go get your acorns in Los Gatos. Anyway, and now, so you plant these hundreds of acorns, and then, you know what, 20 years from now, maybe I'll have oak trees. And the lesson is you have to plant a lot of acorns to get a few oaks. And the other realization for me in this process was that I was doing something, planting acorns, trying to get oak trees. And I will never sit under the shade of those oak trees. I'm 70 years old. I'm going to probably be dead before those oak trees are putting out shade. And it was a heavy realization for me. God, you do something for your kids and your grandkids because you're never going to sit under that oak tree. The message here is you got to plant a lot of seeds. You got to take a lot of shots. You got to do a lot of sampling. I mean, the path from where you are to where you want to be is not going to be straight and narrow. My path is, I was in the jewelry business. I dropped out of law school. I majored in psychology. I thought I wanted to be pre-med. I knew that was a bad decision because I took a course in college where you walked around the hospital, and the first day of that course I fainted. 60 years of my life in Silicon Valley, I am an expert in assholes, and I don't mean the apology sense. And what I figured out, there's fundamentally two kinds of assholes. One asshole is the ego-driven asshole. It's me, myself, and I. It's about self-glorification. It's about me. It's about me. The other kind of asshole is mission-driven. Now, I'm not telling you have to be an asshole, but if you're going to be an asshole, I want you to be a mission-driven asshole. Steve Jobs, he is the premier mission-driven asshole. Steve Jobs, he was on a mission to make the world's best computer. He was on a mission to make people more creative with this computer. And he was on this mission, and he would run over anybody who got in his way. Trust me, I saw it done. I lived in deathly fear of being humiliated by Steve Jobs. It motivated me to do the best work of my career. And what I learned there is that, listen, I wouldn't say, again, I'm telling you to be an asshole, but a mission-driven asshole is a very powerful thing. It wasn't about Steve Jobs at all. It was about let's make the best computer possible. And he would move heaven and earth and anything in front of him to do that. And I suggest to you that that is a good attitude. You become a mission-driven asshole. Number 10 is I think that so many people spend so much effort trying to make the right decision. We use big data, we use LLM, we use AI, we're constantly seeking out feedback and all this kind of stuff. But after interviewing all these people, I figured out that, maybe it's more important to make your decision right than to make the right decision. Because making the right decision is often just pure luck. It's very difficult. The future is unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. So I think you take your best shot, and then you make your decision right. That's the key. Focus on making whatever decision you make it right. And I'm going to show you a little video, a surfing video, which I think is a metaphor for life, a metaphor that explains this concept. So in this video, there's a woman, she's in a longboard competition down in Manhattan Beach. And Manhattan Beach is a beach break. I would never surf there. I need a reef break. I need something where I can paddle about 100 feet before I pop up. Right? And so I cannot surf a beach break. I cannot pop up that fast. So anyway, this is a beach break, but it is a longboard competition. And for surfing, and for those of you not that familiar with surfing, most of the time you're looking out to sea and you're trying to make the right decision, right wave, right time, right direction, right speed, right everything, right? But oftentimes you sit in the wrong place, catch the wrong wave, and then the question becomes, you've made a decision to go for this wave, and this wave has made a decision to take you. What do you do? Do you just punt? Do you just get tumbled and tossed? Or do you make the decision right? And I want to show you this video. So now, she's looking out and she's saying, I made the wrong decision. And boom, she's about to get tossed. But she rescues her ride out of this. And I swear to God, that is a metaphor for life. Sometimes you take your best shot, right place, right way, right time, right everything, and it wasn't the ideal, perfect decision, and then you just have to make that decision right and get a ride out of something where most people would not have gotten a ride. By the way, that's my car, so. All right, so 2 more slides. First, all of you have a copy of my book. It's called Think Remarkable. And I don't want you to be scared of this book. It's just a book. Don't be scared. And finally, this is a QR code. If you're not the kind of person who likes to read books, or you want to send more information on how to be remarkable. This QR code is not a promotional QR code. It is a course that Cam and I created on how to be remarkable. And there's custom video in there from Jay Goodall and Mark Rober and let's see, Andrew Zimmer, the chef, all about talking about how you can be remarkable. So this is a free online course that supplements the book. And so that is how I think I can help you be a remarkable small